Hello students, this is an overview for some of the stuff that you will need for your assignment 3 and for your lab 3. This is a continuation of our exploration of classes and objects. We will stay with classes and objects for a very long time, and we will introduce more and more complex features as we go along. The feature that we are going to do today is kind of taking a look at method overloading that you have done before, but for instance method of classes, and also how can a class take an object as a parameter and also return an object as a parameter. So these are the new features. So you can use the exact same code that you used for lab 2, and again, when you reach assignment 3, you are very welcome to use the build on the code that you used for the bank account class. That is why it is so critical that you complete your module 2 assignment, and because if you miss that one step, then it is not going to be easy for you to keep building on that code. And please reach out to me if you have any questions about the Module 2 lab and the Module 2 assignment, and make sure that that is working correctly, because you will be building on that. So as you can see, the UML is not new. It's got these stars here, which says here are the methods, instance methods that you need to add to the circle class, and of course circle the circle class, and then of course the corresponding prototypes in your header file as well. So a little bit of functionality change or enhancement. Now, the stuff that you need to do is, as you can see here, get distance is a new method that's getting added, which takes in a circle as a parameter. This seems really weird because you are writing a circle class which takes in another circle as a parameter. So, but that is possible. So this distance tries to find the distance from this, which is this object, me, versus an incoming object, exactly as though you were sitting here on planet Earth and you had to gauge the distance from the Earth to Mars, and Mars, the information of Mars was brought to you and you were actually asked to calculate. So two similar objects, the distance between these two is being compared, and a circle is passed as a parameter to a method. So that's one thing. The other thing that and in the same way you can actually return an object from a method as well. Now here there are two methods called resize, and if you can recall from your 360 class, you used a feature called overloading, in which you had two methods of the same name. But if you have two methods of the same name, then the C++ compiler needs to know the difference between the two names. So you have to make sure that the signatures are different, right? So what is a signature? Signature is just the parameter list. So as you can see, the first one has double scale and the second one has int scale. Now this is very useful because sometimes you might need to do the exact same thing, exact same function, but you need to do it on different data types. So does it mean you need to does it mean you need to change the name of the method? No, you can keep the name the same because it's reflective of the action that you're doing, but you can just change the signature. And so that's another thing that you're doing here as well. So these are basically moves the center of the circle to the new coordinates, intersect, checks if you, that is this object, right, it intersects the incoming object. So I'm going to start to use this a lot and know that this means the current object, the object that's calling the method, the object that that we are dealing with. And so that is this. The one that is coming in as a parameter, I'm going to call as other. So that's why you see other here. So this is calling the method intersect, which gets past the other circle to check if the other intersects it or not. Get distance is a method that this circle calls to check if the other circle right here, and to check the distance between the other circle, right? So that's a kind of it's a little difficult to conceptually understand it, but once you practice it, you'll be fine. Now, in order to do this, I'm going to go to my Replit and pull up. Of course, I cannot provide the solution to you of the circle class, but what I can do is take the point class, which has also been given to you. Folks, there's a lot of stuff that's been given to you in your resources, and I'm just going to pull that up and point to you so that you can refer to it. So right here, you have been given a point class, right? This is the header file. You're familiar with header files now. These are the private information about a point class, right? A point class just consists of X and Y, which are the coordinates. And here you've got the default constructor, you've got the regular constructor, the getter, and so far there is no setter, but we can write as many setters as they are. And two methods, the get distance and create, right? The get distance method is here. It will parallel the get distance method in your circle class, so you can take a look and see how that works. And create is a method that I will use to demonstrate method overloading, right? So let's go in here into the implementation file, and as you can see, the scope resolution operator, it's important because it tells C++ that this method is actually in a class file, right? It belongs to the point class, which has got the header in the header file right here. If you do not put this, it's going to have a lot of trouble finding it, right? Now, here is the default constructor, which sets X and Y to 0, and note that you have to include point.h here, right? The reason why, you may ask, well, you've already got a point.h, and you can change this to, because given the notation in our class, point header.h, let's change this to point header. I'm going to keep, I'm not going to call this point functions anymore, because a class file should not, implementation file should not be called functions. So it's just a class file. And at times you might need to define 50 objects, and then this would be full of point P and rectangle and circle and all of that kind of thing. And your class can include all of those files. So but let's just keep this as point. Let me just check and see if point header, this is likely to give a error, point.cpp point header, and this is yes. So if you look at this, I've got the default constructor, I've got the regular constructor, right? And this is going to be called now other, because I want to be consistent with the notation. Other, right? And I'm going to change this to other. So always the incoming is other, and the one that belongs to you is this. For example, here you could have done this dot x equals other. Oh, okay. This dot x, this arrow x. Remember, this is a pointer. And when we come to pointers, we will realize why we need to use the arrow notation and why we cannot use dot. This is actually a pointer. It's a name of a pointer pointing to the current object, right? As you know if you read. But if you feel that this is confusing for you, I'm just going to leave this as X and Y, right? Now, when you come here, this here is a getter. You know getters by now. Get X, get Y. Now I'd like to go to get distance. You see this? Get distance is a method that inputs another point object, and we are always going to call the incoming object as other. And what you're doing is you're calculating the distance between 2 points. Now, this method I have deliberately not used square root of x1 minus x2 the whole square, just so we don't complicate it. I just wanted to focus on how this is done and not complicate it with a formula. So what I'm saying is that the distance between 2 points is the difference between the two x's and the two y's. So if you had two circles, I'm just going to see if I can actually draw something, but I do not think my screen is allowing me to do that. So anyway, so imagine that you had two circles, right? And then you are here, and this is the other circle, and this one had a center x1 y, this dot x, this dot y. The other had the center other dot x and other dot y. Then you're trying to calculate the distance by saying, can you return my x minus the other's x? You cannot do other dot x, right? Because the other's x is private information. You have to call the x of the other, and so by using getX, and y is equal to other dot get y. You must do this, otherwise it was going to give a compiler error. Now once you do that, you've got the distance between the 2 points. And now here, this method is a method to illustrate that you can actually return a point, create and return a point. So as you can see, I'm declaring a new point object. Always this needs to be changed to other x, other y, right? It's going to create an object, point object, and return it. And this is possible. Now I would like to take the opportunity to do method overloading here and say, how about I create another method with the same name, but I do not give any specifications. So I would like to create a circle with default, and we know that default is always 0, 0, right? Because default is 0, 0. So now if I do this, it's not going to call the default constructor. It's going to treat it like a function. So just leave it alone and leave it at that, right? Oh, I need to do this in the header file as well. So I'm going to say I am creating an overloaded function, and now it should be happy. Let me compile this, and okay, now let's go to the main program. All that the main program does is it creates a point P, right? It creates another point Q. Now remember, a P is created using the default constructor. So it's going to have x and y equal to 0, 0. This one is going to have x, y. It's going to have 4 and 5. So the point is located at 4, 5. This point is located at 0, 0. And here, this outputs the x and y of P, and this outputs the distance between P and Q and the distance between Q and P, right? So if you calculate according to our formula, if you calculate the distance between P and Q, it should be positive, and if you calculate the distance between Q and P, it should be negative. So that's why you're getting the negative values here. If you had used the square root formula, we would have gotten both of those numbers as positive. Now here is how I'm creating a point P and outputting that, and I can also do point rs is equal to p dot create, right? I wrote another method to create a point using the default constructor, and I can simply output that as well, right? So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to say s.getX, and you should get a point with the x and y equal to 0, 0. I should have done an end line here, so that would be a little. So here you go. Now there's one method that I'd like to implement, which you guys have been working with, is string, right? And toString. And I know that this is likely to give me an error here and say, why am I not, oh yeah, hashtag include string, and I'm going to do using std string here, and I'm going to go and write a string toString method, and as you can see, the job of this is to return open brackets, right, plus to string X plus comma plus to underscore string Y. Oh, it's not going to like that. It's going to have, oh, okay. What does it say here? Okay, we'll see. Plus close bracket, and that's what it should return. Get X. Oh, I see. I see. Okay. I see what's going wrong here. I've got to put point because otherwise it cannot identify. It cannot identify. Standard to string. Yes, I did. And I do standard. I do that here. And now let's run this. Now, what I'd like to do, you see, I'm still not using my toString method. I go to my main program, and what I'm going to do here is, instead of doing all of this hoopla, I'm just going to say cout p.toString, right? And that's all I need to do. I don't need to do so much of and here I can say cout new point r dot toString inline, and here I can say the same thing for S, and you will see that it will print it out in a very tidy way because we actually created a toString method for it. You see that? Do you see the open close brackets? This is how we usually represent a point in geometry. So that is the point of the toString method. It allows you to represent the object in a string form in the way that your customer wants it to. So please feel free as usual to put a comment on this video and point out any places where you still had difficulty or where you liked it and you found it useful. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next week. Bye.